Good afternoon, John. Thank you for taking some time out and getting involved in our business podcast this week. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us all a bit about what you do?
Yeah, my name is John Irwin. I'm the Managing Director of Kiverco Limited. We're a company that manufactures recycling plant and equipment. We're based in Mid-Ulster in a place called Rocca. The company's about 30 years old, and we are supplying plant that recovers valuable resource from waste material globally.
Awesome. And what's led you to start working with that company, John? How did you end up in that position?
My career prior to coming here was in the plastics industry, plastics manufacturing.
Sure.
Other than a few years when I began my career in FMCG sales, after that it was really business development and eventually into sort of general management. But all the companies were local companies and they were all manufacturing plastic of one form or another. So I felt it was time that I cleared up the mess that I'd made over the 25 years. And an opportunity came up in Kiverco, and I'd been in the previous company I worked with, Denroy in Bangor, for about 9 years, and I was managing director there. And I fancied a new challenge. And
Sure.
Kiverco is a family-owned business as well. It's about 30 years old, as I say, and it had a tremendous opportunity, and I was looking for someone who could come into the business and really grow it and scale the business and really I suppose realize the potential that was in the business. There was a lot of belief in what it could do, and I subscribed to that belief when I met the owners, and I took on the challenge.
So it sounds like poacher turned gamekeeper then, to clean up the mess, as you say. So what is it that sets you guys apart then? What would be your USP, or why would I work with you guys instead of one of your competitors, maybe?
Well, we reckon we've got the world's toughest recycling plant, and that's the sort of strap line that we use, and that's based on our experience of installing plant that that's still around 20 years later, and we really do build it on that basis, and that's with a sustainability in mind, because the less times you have to replace your plant, the less resources called upon, and it's sort of in line with what the plant does, which is to recover resource from waste material. So typically we are putting in a recycling plant that the customers put construction and demolition waste through. So that construction and demolition waste contains aggregates, it contains wood, plastic, glass, metal,
Sure.
And various other unrecoverable items. And effectively what happens is that it's put in one end of the plant, and by the time it's gone through the plant, it's separated into its constituent parts. And our selling point really is on three things. It's the purity of that recovery, it's the uptime, so the plant keeps going, it doesn't break down, and then it's the useful life of the plant. So those are the three brand promises that Kiverco has.
And who would be your ideal customer then, or who do you guys most want to work with? I'm assuming there's a customer then from the raw material and then somebody you sell it out to.
Yeah, I mean, our customers are the ones who handle the waste in the earlier stage. So they could be skip hire companies, for example. They could be municipal organizations, councils who collect waste and then recover the resource from that. And that sort of pattern of customer, and they could be privately owned, they could be corporate, multinational companies. That pattern is very similar all over the world. So there's a range of people that we can supply to.
Sure. And it sounds like a massive opportunity, as you say. So what sort of opportunities is it the export the stuff, or is it a local market that you're going to?
Our market really is global, and all countries around the world, with very few exceptions, have recognized the necessity to start to recycle. And the resources, the natural resources required for anything are more scarce all the time. They're more expensive, and there's a business case for recovering and reusing material. That business case is stronger in some countries than others because of legislation. So in some countries, it's still relatively cheap to put waste in landfill, whereas in other countries, it's much more expensive, and that really creates the conditions for a business. So it isn't just about the environmental benefits of it. It has to be something that is worthwhile, and the legislation is very important. So the countries that we supply to are at various levels of development, and some of them are way advanced. The UK, Europe, very, very advanced. Other parts, for example, in America, some of the states are behind in terms of legislation, and probably about 10 years behind. So there are opportunities for us in saturated, sorry, not saturated, I suppose, but in mature markets. Equally, there are opportunities for us in markets that are maturing and emerging.
Cool. So we touched a wee bit on how you arrived there. Tell me more. What are you, obviously you don't own the business, so you've been brought in as like the managing director to scale the business, and you've been doing that 9 years previous in Denroy. What would you say has been your biggest learning at that sort of leadership level in a business and trying to scale it? What's been the biggest learning there?
It's very important for people to understand what is the vision, where are we going, what are we trying to achieve. So when I came into Kiverco, the first thing I did was look at what the strategy was in the business. Was there a leadership team? Does everyone know what we're trying to achieve and over what period of time? And one of the first things I did was create a 5 and 10 year vision, so that we were looking out ahead, and it was an ambitious scaling approach that we were taking. And then we sort of dial that back to the here and now, the near term and the medium term, to see what are we going to do in order to deliver that. The leadership team creation was absolutely critical, because we needed a team that was all focused on the same thing. Typically, I have found over the years that small companies grow to a certain level, and there's a group of people working very hard in those companies who just get things done. And it's only when you start to grow and scale that you need to then create the structure where there are defined processes and roles and responsibilities, and you don't rely on somebody who knows everything about the business to make things happen. And that was something that I saw here. And there was, of course, the fundamental thing was that the owners were behind this. No sense to me saying if this is what we're going to do, this is what we need to do. They were fully behind that, and that was very important. But the vision team, first and foremost, are vital.
So it's just about getting everybody aligned then and pulling on the same rope.
It's aligned right from the top and through through the business. So when we created our strategic plan, we then created strategic plans for each of the key functions in the business, and with key objectives, and the idea being that those are aligned. So if the key functions are successfully achieving their objectives, the theory is that then as they're aligned to the higher level company objectives, then we achieve those as well. And it allows us to plan ahead to say, right, well, if my department has to do this in this time frame, what do I need to deliver that? How do I do it now? What additional resource or training skills, what I need to put in place? And that then also translates into the budgets that are set for each department to allow them to do that.
Yeah, so again, just breaking it down and dialing it back. So if you hit all of your year plans and you hit your 5 year, and if each department's hitting their KPIs, then the business hits theirs.
That's the theory, but of course it's a bumpy road, and you've got to sort of roll with the punches as 100%. Time goes on. But the important thing is that you've got that vision in front of you, and the other important thing is that you have to be realistic and recognize that from time to time you have to change your approach, because not everything works perfectly right from the get-go.
So what would you say then? What have you learned, in that say 10 or 15 year period? What have you learned about yourself? What's been the biggest learning you've had to embrace?
I suppose I think it's very important that as a leader in a business, that whilst you've got your day job of looking after the business, you have to be outward looking. I find that I've been good at doing that. Now you can't really do that unless you've got a good team that allows you the time and ability to go and look outwards and contribute to other things. Be be part of advisory groups of different organizations. You know, for example, I'm involved with the Advanced Manufacturing Innovation Centre at Queen's. I chair the Industry Advisory Board. I'm on the board of the Centre for Competitiveness. And over the years, in other companies involved in other industry organizations. That does two things. It creates awareness of your company. It gives you a good broad understanding of what's going on in the business, you know, in the business community in general. And it also allows you to make contacts with people at various levels in companies that you may not have done if you just went to your business every day. So I've sort of learned that I believe I've had a successful approach to doing this, and that's not maybe something I would have realised would have worked well, or that I would have the ability to do at an early stage in my career.
Yeah, it's a really good practical step for people to do, and it kind of it's allowing you to get the macro picture to then bring it to a micro level in your own business. And I like that's very pragmatic, easy for people maybe to go and copy. So yeah, that's very good advice. So what would you say then, John? Like, what, you know, you said it's a massive opportunity that you bought into with Kiverco. What would you say is, you know, what does the next 5 years look like for you guys? What is your vision, and what do you see as the main challenges moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, skills and availability of engineering resource is always a challenge, and you know, we recognize that, so we've taken steps to be able to improve our access to people with those types of skills by trying to bring people in from an early stage. So we have a number of apprentices in the business, and not just engineering apprentices or shop floor. We've got level 3 apprentices, we've got degree apprentices, and we've got degree apprentices in things like business management. So we're bringing young people in, taking them through their education and training, and also giving them a job at the same time as trying to you know, look at our recruitment and retention policies. How do we create a culture and a work environment here that people want to work in? And you know, diversity is important for us. We're part of the diversity charter mark, and you know, that is going to be, I think if we don't do that, we just simply won't be able to get access to the right people when we need them. So we hope to scale up the business in the next 5 years up to about a £50 million business. And we're in that sort of preparation phase at the minute. And as I put it before, what we may have done in the past is been opportunistic. And as opportunities came to us, we were good at taking those. What we're doing now, and you know, and dealing with them, what we're doing now is we're saying this is what we're going to achieve, and we're putting plans in place to achieve that. So we've sort of turned it on its head. Instead of waiting to see what happens, we're saying this is what's going to happen, and this is how we're going to make it happen.
Being more proactive instead of responsive, basically.
That's right. And sort of trying to take a little bit more control of our destiny. But we're in the early stages of making the preparations and putting those in place.
Sounds exciting. Again, like just a massive number there, 50 million turnover for another, you know, you guys won't be the only people in Northern Ireland doing it, but it's amazing to see, you know, local companies competing on that global stage, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, it's you know, there's so much business available around the world.
Yeah.
It's a question of getting yourself well enough organized and targeted, having the right people in place with capabilities and experience and contacts that we can reach out and get that, and then deal with it when we've got it.
Yeah. So look, I always like to finish on this question. If you could go back and speak to an 18-year-old John, what piece of advice would you give him?
I suppose I gained confidence over the years as time went on, but I see younger people with more confidence and ambition at an earlier age, and I think I would probably tell myself that, you know, be a bit more confident, be more ambitious, and you know, push yourself forward at an earlier stage, and don't be satisfied with just moving along and getting there eventually. You know, believe in yourself and do it as, you know, quicker.
Yeah, again, good bit of advice, like back yourself, basically.
Pardon?
Just basically back yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, back yourself, believe in yourself, and be confident enough to step forward and prove it.
Brilliant. Look, John, listen, that was some great advice in there. As a really pragmatic steps that others can follow and maybe get a similar result to you, and a really exciting growth plan and growth phase you guys are on. So I'll watch from a distance to see how you get on with that over the next couple of years. But for today, thank you so much for coming and getting involved and sharing that with us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.